So we are focused a lot more on influencers, and the influencers that seem to do the best is not just showing the rooms. We encourage them to show their entire experience, their entire stay. So the ones that do the best are a reel that shows them, maybe checking in, enjoying the room, but really over half of it is them exploring the neighborhood and what they did and what made their trip so fun.
This is Social Pulse Podcast Hospitality Edition, your essential resource for mastering the unique challenges of social media marketing in the hospitality industry authentically. I'm your host, Mike Alton, and each episode we dive deep into the real issues, from evolving guest expectations to standout social campaigns, sharing insights and strategies you can put to work. Let's get started with today's episode. Welcome back to Social Pulse Podcast Hospitality Edition, where we're digging into the challenges, the successes, and the stories of social media community professionals in the industry, just like you. Subscribe to gain valuable insights that you'll be able to apply to your own work and social presence from each and every episode. Now, when you think about luxury hotels, what typically comes to mind? Probably a grand lobby with an attentive front desk staff, a concierge ready to fill your every need, and various hotel personnel available 24/7. But what if everything you thought you knew about luxury hospitality was about to change? What if the future of hospitality isn't about more service, but about invisible service? Today's travelers are increasingly seeking authentic, independent experiences. They want to feel like locals, not tourists. They're often comfortable with technology and often prefer digital solutions to human interaction. But this creates an interesting challenge for hoteliers. How do you market and build trust in a hospitality experience that intentionally minimizes human contact? That's exactly what our guest today has figured out. Chad Ludeman is the co-founder of Lokal Hotel, a pioneering boutique hotel brand that's revolutionizing the hospitality industry with their innovative invisible service concept. Through thoughtful design and strategic marketing, Chad and his team have successfully created and promoted a new kind of hotel experience that's resonating with modern travelers. Today, he'll share how they're using social media and digital marketing to make the invisible visible. Hey, Chad, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Mike. Thanks for having me.
My pleasure. Could you start by just explaining what an invisible service means at Local Hotel and how that experience was inspired, or how that concept was inspired?
Sure. Yeah. So originally, honestly, we didn't have the invisible service concept in mind. We were focused on creating a boutique hotel in the way that my wife and I like to travel, both by ourselves with our kids. So we were focused a lot more on the design of the rooms and the whole building. But they turned out to be very small locations. The first location was only 6 units. So as we were trying to make the numbers work, we realized, hey, we don't have the real estate area in the building for a front desk, and we do not have the budget to staff full time for only 6 rooms. A front desk attendant, maybe even two, covering different shifts. So we kind of had to figure it out backwards, work our way backwards. And throughout our travels, we saw some similar places that were starting to pop up. And one in particular in Nashville, when we were visiting family and kind of exploring Nashville, we went out to eat at a place that had a small hotel above it. I think it was just 4 rooms. And going through their website, I saw the term invisible service. And that was the first time I had really ever seen that term. Now understand what it means in hospitality. It's everyone, behind the scenes that you don't really see. You don't really see the, kitchen staff, obviously, that's cooking your food or washing your dishes at a restaurant. So, but that just kind of, clicked with us, and we said, all right, well, these guys are doing it. We think we could make this work. Why not? And we kind of had no choice to do it at the scale we want to get the design driven kind of place, starting out doing our first hotel from scratch. So yeah, it kind of came out as a necessity rather than planned from the very beginning.
It's fascinating. So, and forgive me if this is not on point, but it sounds to me like it's Airbnb with the convenience and the locality and maybe the uniqueness of the locations, but you're adding a lot of the amenities and the luxury and the high touch that a high-end hotel might offer. Is that fair?
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, obviously, we don't love to use the term Airbnb, but it's the easiest way to
Yeah.
explain it. We are on Airbnb, but we do very, very little business there. Um, but yeah, I kind of say it's Airbnb. It's a professionally run Airbnb that is
Right.
officially a hotel. Like we aren't trying to rent apartments and make them into Airbnb. Like everything is zoned and permitted from zoning to building permit, everything as a hotel.
Yeah, I mean, as someone who has stayed in those kinds of, individually owned, let's say, and operated uh, places throughout this country and even abroad in England, France, Spain, I've often really wanted to have somebody professional helping me, because the price and the location might have been perfect, but I'm still dealing with somebody who has no professional experience beyond renting their unique location. And they're often not necessarily available to help with anything. They're just, I'm just renting the room, and often I have to jump through their hurdles to get the key and do all those kinds of things, which it sounds like that's the kind of headache that your operation, I'm sure, just eliminates completely.
Yes, exactly. My wife does all of the operations, and she has people 24/7, making sure that they're available to answer anybody's questions. And most of it is done through text message, but we do get the occasional phone call as well.
Cool, cool. So I appreciate you clarifying that. What were some of the challenges that you faced, particularly with when it comes to marketing, due to this kind of non-traditional approach to hospitality?
Yeah, good question. I mean, when we started out, we have a very strong focus on brand. So we focus on developing the brand really well, bringing in professional brand designers to create this new company and brand for us. So that was one. And then we saw, we started in 2017. So uh, Instagram is still very popular, but it was kind of in the prime right then. Like even people would even look at images. Uh, so it was kind of perfect for this design driven hospitality. So that's where we put the majority of our focus, building up that Instagram following even before we opened the first location. So that really worked out well. We did a bunch of tactics that I could go on and a whole nother podcast about, but that was what really drove us. We grew quickly there, and we booked, I think, about $40,000 in bookings in 6 rooms before we even opened, before anybody had walked through the rooms. This is just on pictures, website, and Instagram.
Wow. Wow, that is impressive. And I should have clarified earlier, um, th your organization is LOKAL. Am I pronouncing it local? Are we just changing the C to K, or are you pronouncing it differently?
Just the change of the C to the K. We say you can pronounce
Okay.
it however you want, as long as your credit card doesn't bounce or is not fake.
Right? And your locations are throughout Philadelphia, that's right?
So we have two in Philadelphia, one in Old City and one in Fishtown. It's kind of the hipper, Brooklyn type neighborhood of Philadelphia. And then we've got one in Cape May, New Jersey, which is right off the beach. And then we have two vacation homes, which are more like cabins in the woods in between Philly and Cape May. So they're about 50 minutes outside of Philadelphia.
Terrific. So anyone listening, if you're headed towards Philadelphia, New Jersey area, this is definitely the place that you're going to want to look to first for your evenings. But let's get back to social media, because you talked about Instagram and so on. How are you using Instagram and social media in general to build trust with potential guests? I mean, I'm just floored that you had $40,000 worth of bookings before anybody could even walk through the door. And I know some people might be skeptical of staying in a hotel experience that's so different like yours. How did you manage that?
Yeah, good question. I mean, we obviously used the professional photos and stuff we had, but there was a big focus on showing the process of checking in. We had iPads in the rooms at the beginning, showing how you could use those for different concierge services or to play music in the rooms, showing how that we would respond to you via text message. So we definitely at the beginning did a little bit more in depth on exactly how the whole experience would work out more from a technical standpoint to make sure that people felt comfortable and understood how they're going to check in, stay there, check out, all that. Don't necessarily focus on that a whole lot anymore from time to time, but that was a little bit more of a focus at the beginning to build that trust.
That makes sense, because I could certainly see that applying to almost any industry, right? Where you're asking somebody to do something they've never done before, show them how to do it. Not just tell them, but show them. And I love the idea of just simply having iPads already in the room. That to me already elevates the experience. Because again, I can't even tell you how many Airbnbs and other kinds of locations I've stayed in over the years, and none of them had that level of technology already waiting for me, and allowing me to communicate with staff that way. But let's talk about the design, because your properties are known for their design aesthetic, and I'm wondering how that plays into your social media strategy.
Yeah, so the design is obviously very important. It's a key principle for us. We're very design driven in the build out of every location, but they're also very local, which is where the name comes from. So we have a lot of local artists. We use local furniture makers, local lighting makers. Like as much as we can is made by small local businesses. It was kind of key to our whole brand. So, I mean, showing that design, it's fairly easy compared to show the difference between us and a typical hotel because we're not just a small little hotel room with one or two beds in a room. It's obviously we're apartment style, so they're a little bit bigger. It gives it a lot better light for sure. And it looks more like a very well designed apartment without all the clutter. So it does very well on social media compared to a typical hotel room for sure.
Yeah, I can absolutely imagine that. Can you share an example maybe of one of the social campaigns that you've run that you thought did particularly well? We're looking for examples of how that actually communicated your unique concept.
Yeah, I mean, at the very beginning, to gain awareness, we brought in professional photographers and allowed them to do their own shoots. That did very, very well. So nobody had ever seen the rooms before, and we just kind of let people bring in their own clients, their own products, whatever it is they needed to shoot, and that helped us gain awareness and get those locations off very quickly. That was probably the best campaign that we did. We probably tried a dozen, and that was the best when we're launching a new location. Now, what's doing the best is certainly influencers. We're relying on them more and more. The creator influencer content is definitely being boosted and preferred by the algorithms. So something they post, we could post the exact same thing. It won't have nearly the traction, but they also have, a different audience that's there looking for design driven or travel type of content. So we are focused a lot more on influencers, and the influencers that seem to do the best is not just showing the rooms. We encourage them to show their entire experience, their entire stay. So the ones that do the best are a reel that shows them, maybe checking in, enjoying the room, but really getting half of it, over half of it, is them exploring the neighborhood and what they did and what made their trips so fun. Because obviously we've taken a lot of care into what neighborhoods and the specific streets and blocks that we've located our locations on that a large hotel can't. You're immersed more in people that live there in an apartment or condo or townhome next door to you. So you really feel like a local, like you're living there for a couple days rather than staying in a big hotel room in the hotel district.
That is such a smart approach to marketing a property like that, because you're right. As much as somebody might enjoy staying at one of your locations, that's not why they're in Philadelphia or New Jersey to begin with. They're there to do other kinds of things. Folks, we're talking with Chad Ludeman about the process of building successful social strategies, even for businesses that eschew traditional models. And we're going to talk about tools, UGC, and more in a moment. But first, let me share how Agorapulse can help you build incredible reports that can show off to your management team or other properties you're managing how social media is driving real business.
Actually can't say enough great things about the reporting with Agorapulse. I feel like that is my job security every month. My clients aren't that active on social media, which is why they have me manage their profiles for them. And when they get that report, it verifies that they're making a good investment.
The metrics downloads are so simple and easy to read, and it really helps me show where we are doing things right on social and where we need to improve.
So I think one of the main reasons why we decided to move to Agorapulse is because it's a more comprehensive, integrated tool for all of our marketing needs. So rather than what we have had to do historically with Sprout, which is use certain parts of that platform that work really well and then supplement it with other outside tools, by moving to Agorapulse, we were able to keep all of that into one technology platform, which is not only a time saver, but it also makes sure that our analytics and all of our reporting's on point because we're pulling all from the same source.
It's a really great platform for agencies. It makes it really easy to manage, but gives me really, really, really robust information that actually helps me develop better strategies for my clients and better plans of action.
So, Chad, one of the interesting tensions that I'm picking up on is the fact that on the one hand, you've got folks who might appreciate the fact that this is a fairly hands-off experience. They're not having to check in and deal with staff and that sort of thing. On the other hand, you might have folks who prefer to have a lot of staff available when they need it. They want to know that they're going to be taken care of. How are you balancing highlighting that independence of the experience while still ensuring that guests feel supported?
Yeah, good question. So originally, we were more concerned about that. We thought that people would want more hands-on assistance. We even showed up the first day and offered to help people because it was a walk-up to help them with their luggage, and they were like, kind of, "What are you doing here?" Get away from me, kind of thing. So we've found out very quickly that part of our niche that was stronger than we realized it would be was that people want privacy. We kind of call our guests more professional travelers, more experienced travelers. They don't need to do all the check-in. They don't need to talk to anybody about whatever local things they're trying to peddle to them. So that was a pleasant surprise. So through our marketing, obviously most people are doing some research on us, finding our website, finding us through social media. The vast majority of our bookings are direct. So the majority of people know exactly what they're getting into. We have zero problems. They love the whole concept. We definitely have a little bit more of an issue with the OTAs. So, somebody books on a hotels.com, it might say like a queen deluxe when it's really, a studio apartment with self check-in. So sometimes we get people from OTAs that don't look at their emails, don't look at the text message we send them, all that before, and they kind of get there and call us and say, "How do I get in?" And then, they're expecting a normal hotel room. So that's sometimes a problem, not too big of an issue. Usually when they get in, they're pleasantly surprised by the size and quality of the room compared to what they thought they booked. And then, I would honestly say like 1% of our clients maybe um, don't fully understand what they were getting into and are expecting that high touch kind of experience, which we obviously don't, really cater to. We don't have any on-site food and beverage. We don't have people that can run them something quickly to their room that they might need. We have lots of ways of handling that. And honestly, my wife hides things throughout the hotel rooms and throughout the hotel itself. So that's kind of how we handle those problems. Everything you could possibly need is usually there somewhere. But yeah, it's really not an issue with 98% of our clients. They really understand what they're getting into.
I think that's where we're going as a society. I definitely fall into the previous camp where now when we're traveling, I was just in Southern California, Arizona recently, and we need to book a hotel on our drive back to St. Louis, which is 27 hours, and we're able to do it from the app. We're able to check in through the app. We're able to unlock the door to our room using the app, right? So that
Right.
should have been a um, completely touch-free experience. Except as we walked in, the person at the front desk like waved us down
Yeah.
and wanted to know our name and everything. And I'm thinking, why?
Right.
I've already checked in. I already have access to the room. Why do you need to like
Right.
stop me in my tracks?
Yeah.
So it's almost abrasive these days, at least in my experience, to have that touch. But we definitely appreciate being able to call people and say, hey, I need this, that, or the next thing.
Right.
Earlier, though, you talked about influencers, and you made this really great point, which is that creator, like individual creator content on social media performs way better than our own branded content, even if it's the exact same content. What about the actual users and members? Are you guys doing much with UGC? Are you seeing that? How does that play into the rest of your marketing strategy?
Yeah, so it doesn't play in as much as I'd hope, honestly. We don't get as many people kind of posting quality user generated content than you would hope, right? So
Yeah.
it's certainly out there, but to be up to our standards, it's not always fantastic. So I definitely have pictures. I'll see them as soon as I do. I'll grab them and ask permission to use them. and those really will do well in some kind of mashup reel or whatever, where we're showing past guests staying together. But it's not a huge part of our content strategy.
Yeah, I would imagine. Yeah, influencers who have a lot more experience creating that kind of content for that situation in particular would work better. So I'm wondering then overall, how are you measuring the impact that social media has on your properties? Because we talked to, different kinds of social media managers from different kinds of hotels and other kinds of hospitality venues on this show every single week. And everyone's really, really different on this
Yeah.
particular question. They don't quite have a handle on it. So I'm curious how you guys are connecting those dots.
Yeah, I mean, it's very difficult, honestly, for a small business like ourselves, especially. We don't have the resources, both the people or the budget, to really do some of the things that we would like to. I have used some tools in the past that I haven't been too impressed with. Honestly, right now I am um, doing it manually, and I haven't even done it in the last 2 or 3 months. But I'm recording it in a Google spreadsheet, and it takes me like an hour or two a month to do that, if not more sometimes. And I don't enjoy it. And
Yeah. Not to put too fine a point on it.
right. So yeah, it's difficult, especially a small business. I kind of always say the smaller guys like us in hospitality, we're the perfectly wrong size, and there's not a lot of great tools out there on our budgets. So when I find one, then I'm more than happy to test it out.
When it comes to the rest of your marketing, are there any other tools that you're using, platforms or resources maybe that have helped you promote your properties?
Yeah, good question. I mean, honestly, right now we're trying to focus a little bit more on the basics like email marketing. So just
Mm.
doing a much better job of our email campaigns, our both the pre-scheduled workflows and the monthly kind of fresher what's going on in the areas that we have. But yeah, technology wise, I mean, my biggest need right now that I don't have is a CRM, which makes my life very difficult as a marketer. And honestly, that's been a little bit more of the property management software that we use for hotels. We've used a couple different ones right now, and none of them have a CRM, and none of them
Oh.
integrate well at all with third-party CRM. So that's my biggest need that I don't have right now, in addition to probably tracking the stats of social a little bit better. But yeah, really not using a lot of tools right now that we're super excited about.
Yeah, no, that makes actually a lot of sense. CRMs specifically aren't a topic that we've touched on this show in the past. I'm kind of feeling like I need to talk to some folks and find out what the state of hotel specific CRMs are. We'll go back to our that's from our very first show, Tyler Anderson, who runs Casual Fridays out of Texas, which is a marketing agency specifically for hotels and hospitality businesses, and pick his brain a bit. But coming back to you guys, just looking ahead, how do you see this concept of invisible service evolving, and how do you think that might impact your marketing over the next few years?
Well, definitely, we saw the pandemic like accelerate this business model, right? So, from the larger hotels to small people like us, everyone is kind of gravitating to some sort of contactless check-in. So, I think that's good for the industry. I think that's good for us. Obviously, people are might be even checking in without going to the front desk at a Marriott. I don't know. I think we've tried it before and it never works, but they're experiencing it more and more out there in normal ways of travel. So that just makes them accepting, our model even better. So yeah, as it evolves, I think that as we grow, again, we're still pretty small right now, but we want to focus a little bit more on the behind the scenes concierge, I think. So we always say that we want to be like we want to feel like we are your local friend that lives in the neighborhood that you're going to, giving you all the best local recommendations on what to do. Our staff does a great job doing that via text message, like I said. But I think we want to be a little bit more proactive and come up with some more innovative ways of really helping people plan their stay in the area that we are, even before they get there. And then when they're during there, just feel the ability to reach out to us anytime. Sometimes we get people that stay with us for a couple days and they leave and they send us a whole bunch of questions or a whole bunch of things they wish they knew. And we're like we said, we're here on text message all the time. You could have asked us any of those questions. We could have helped you with all these things during your stay. So those are kind of our goals to get a little bit better at communicating that, marketing that, and having ways to be proactive about this behind the scenes, local friend, concierge, curating your local experience when you stay with us.
Fantastic, fantastic. And I'm just curious, do you have plans to continue to expand your footprint in the area?
Yeah, so honestly, we took the pandemic kind of threw a wrench in some of our plans, and we ended up taking almost 5 years off of expansion. We also have kids that are teenagers now, so we've been trying to spend a little bit more time with them while they're still at home. But we are working on our next project right now. It's in actually, my wife will not allow me to say anything about it, but let's just say it's a landscape hotel concept, which is what we've always wanted to do from the beginning. Our investors and whatnot were not interested in that concept in 2017 before hardly any of them had been built in the U.S. and the pandemic has helped, escalate that kind of model. So think of more hotel rooms as separated little pods or cabins or whatever you want to
Yeah.
call them, rather than one big building spread out on a larger landscape with a lot of shared amenities and stuff like that. So that's what we're looking to do next. We started the design process this week, actually. So
Nice.
hopefully all goes well. It takes us a month or two to get out of due diligence before we really know our project's happening. So hopefully we'll have more details soon. But right now, the boss, my wife, will not allow me to say anything more than that.
Well, hopefully you didn't get in trouble and divulge too much already, but we'll have to have you back once that's off and running, and so we can catch up on how things are going and how your marketing has continued to shift. But Chad, you've been absolutely amazing. This has been a super fascinating conversation. For folks who want to learn more about you and these projects that you're spearheading, where can they go to reach out?
Yeah, thanks. So everything is kind of stay local, local with a K. So our website, staylocal.com. All of our social media is stay_local. That's the easiest way to find us and interact with us.
Terrific. Thank you, Chad. Thank you, all of you, for listening. That's all the time we've got for today, friends. But don't forget to find the Social Pulse Podcast Hospitality Edition on Apple and drop me a review. I'd love to know what you think. And we'll have all of Chad's links in the show notes below, as always. Until next time.
Thanks for tuning in to the Social Pulse Podcast Hospitality Edition, hosted by Mike Alton and powered by AgoraPulse, the #1 rated social media management solution. Discover more at agorapulse.com. Enjoyed the episode? Please subscribe on your favorite podcast platform and leave us a review. Your feedback drives our content.